Hey folks, it's Saturday morning, and guess what? It's time again for Jim Wilson's FNN Fishing News Network to bring you some really exciting stuff. You know, we travel all over the place trying to find interesting places to go and interesting people to talk to. And this week we've got a real treat because we're going to be down here in Panacea, Florida at Gulf Specimen Marine Laboratory. And we're going to be talking with the director and letting you know what's going on. And it's just been a wonderful opportunity. Many of you have read Randy Wayne White's books, and you know his protagonist, Dr. Marion Ford. This is the real one. So we're going to be bringing you some information with him, but right now we've got in to get today's edition. And let's take a look first and see what our tides are doing. Fishing is finally improving as long as weather improves. That's been our biggest hang up is all this wind we've been having and then rain. But we're getting some good reports of a lot of big kings and huge bluefish. The other day we were over in Pensacola and went down to the beach, and those fish had to be 10, 15, 20 pounds in a huge school just skyrocketing out of the water. Same thing around Panama City with big, huge king mackerel now, skyrocketing out of the water. If you can get live bait, you're going to be better off, but they'll still hit those dead cigar minnows. But that's been a problem. Because of the cooler water temperatures, we haven't really had the big numbers of those fish moving in right now, and pretty soon you're going to start to see them come in. But that's been the biggest problem. But trolling will bring them up. And of course, we've got mackerel in the bays now are in big numbers. Haven't had a good report on squid coming up in the bay yet, but hopefully they'll be here. If you remember a couple of years ago, my gosh, you couldn't go down there with a squid jig and not just haul one in right after, and some good sized ones. I even heard some being caught well over a pound, which is very, very large for a Gulf squid. And of course, right now, speckled trout are still on the move in the bays. Freshwater fishing is getting just about as good as it gets. We've heard of a lot of big bass. If you remember when Panama City Beach had their fishing kids tournament a week ago, we had kids catching 5-pound bass right off the shore in that pond over there at Frank Brown Park. That park is open to children and adults who bring a child. So that's a great spot to go. And remember the Panama City Beach Pier. They're also starting to get pompano moving along there. I think the cobia move has pretty well gotten out of the area. We just had a very slow year this year. Not sure what the problems were, but I'd say if anything, it contributed to the fact that we had much cooler water temperatures this year than we normally have in the past. But moving on around, it won't be long before we're going to start hearing about the triple tail moving back into Apalachicola Bay. And believe it or not, we have triple tail that come into St. Joe Bay as well as our East Bay and West Bay here. Around those crab buoys, that's where you're going to find them. And if you have a big fresh, it doesn't have to be live, a big fresh piece of shrimp out there on a float, just let it go and ease up as you're coming to them. And don't be surprised. If you're offshore, look for any kind of floating debris, and you're likely to find triple tail under them, and pretty soon you'll be seeing mahi dolphin coming in along with them also. But the big thing will be to try and find minnows, because right now people that are going out and trying to catch them with sabiki hooks are having fair to no success, because the water temperatures are still moving up, and the warmer, the better. That's what we're looking for. Now remember, I do all the cooking in our house, and I do all the grocery shopping because my wife, who teaches blind children, does all the heavy lifting. As I say, I don't get honey-do lists anymore. I still get lesson plans every day. But one of the things I do is visit Tanya's garden, because right now, oh my gosh, it is so loaded with all the fresh fruits, vegetables, everything. Most of it all coming in local now. Blueberries are going to be one of the big things coming in, and of course strawberries. And these are local fruit that we're talking about, not some kind of stuff brought in from wherever else. And go in and see Tanya. Get there late in the afternoon and you'll probably see the peacock strutting around out there. That's a sight worth seeing. And ask to see her little zoo. She has got so many weird creatures, and there's just such nice people. But go see Tanya's right across the street from Soul Tractor just before you get to Haiti Vocational School. Tell them we sent you, and I'll appreciate that. And then, of course, don't forget about AMW Trailers. They've just finished building my custom trailer for the new 17-foot square back canoe I have. And they can build one for you, aluminum or galvanized, or have parts or whatever you need. And they're right over there in downtown Millville next to what's going to be the new Piggly Wiggly opening soon, right there on Business 98. Look for their big blue building. And if you need anything, trailer parts, repairs, fit your boat, a special trailer, they've been building them since the 60s, 50s. So drop in and see them. And when we come back, we're going to have a great show for you, because we've got Jack Rudlow here, and Jack is the real Dr. Marion Ford. What a pleasure. So stay tuned, because we'll be coming back right after this break.
For everything you need on or off the water, visit the Panama City and St. Andrews Marinas. Both locations provide you with easy access boat slips, ramps, fuel, bait, and tackle. Come visit our ship stores and see our unique nautical gifts and clothing, or just relax with a cool drink and grab a snack while watching the boats come in.
Don't forget that mariner on your shopping list. Come by and see our unique nautical gifts, cards, and clothing at Panama City or St. Andrews Marina. Call 872-7272 for more information.
Meet Henson Hindenburg, king of the road at Baytown Tire, 2609 West 15th Street, just before the curve. For 20 years, he's taken care of your cars, trucks, and commercial vehicles. Baytown Tire carries tires including Michelin, Yokohama, BF Goodrich, and Uniroyal. A new set gets free rotation every 6 months. Alignment is done on the latest digital equipment, and his diagnostic can read all your computer info for proper repairs. All his service folks are ASE certified. Give him a call today at 873-8900.
Hi, this is Larry Lee from Coin and Bullion Reserves. Do you need to raise some quick cash? People from all over the southeastern United States have been doing that for over 39 years here at Coin and Bullion Reserves, and here's how it's done. You go to your jewelry box, you get that old unused gold chain, you bring it to Coin and Bullion Reserves at the corner of East Avenue and 15th Street in Panama City, where you will get more for your gold than any place in the United States, and you can take that to the bank.
When was the last time you took a few minutes out of your busy schedule to enjoy the simple things? The wide open spaces, the uncharted territory, the moments that seem to stick with you for a lifetime. Well, what are you waiting for? Half hitch. Get out there.
Need a storage shed, pole barn, or garage? Who do you call? Two-time site-built buildings. They come completely prefabbed with aluminum siding and 3/4-inch floors. Constructed on your property by James McConnell and his crew. With no middleman, his prices is lower, and with easy payment terms. Here's my 12-foot by 20-foot shed that went through a 3-foot gate and anchored like a mobile home. He's been building here for 15 years. See the samples at 3822 Highway 98 in Springfield, and call today at 850-257-5729. When you want your lawn to go from this to this, you need to call Leroy Dennis and his helper Bill Grimes. They can do it in one day. Not only that, but Leroy offers discounts to seniors and active and former military. He and his partner can handle any commercial jobs. Don't wait to give them a call at 358-6696. Guess what? If you aren't satisfied, I'll pay for it myself. Don't delay. Call the experts now and look great tomorrow. All right, folks, I promised to have him right here, Dr. Marion Ford. Oops, I'm sorry. Jack Rudlow, who's the director of
Gulf Specimen Marine Laboratory in Panacea, Florida.
And you're open how often?
Actually, we're open 7 days a week. We're open during the weekdays from 9 till 5, Saturdays from 10 till 4, and Sundays 12 till 4.
And you have the aquarium across the street?
Yeah, this place is this is a multifunctional facility. It's an aquarium. It's sort of like the back door, the back scenes behind what most aquariums are like, but that's where you can get to see the animals up close. We have more touch tanks and under roof than SeaWorld or any place else.
And that's a wonderful, I'm sure for kids, that's just got to be an amazing thing.
Well, touching to me is really, really terribly important, because we get kids that from cities. They're afraid of things, and then once we show them, they can actually pick up a horseshoe crab or a spider crab or a sea urchin or something, and it doesn't hurt them. It's about overcoming fear, and in a matter of just a minute, it imprints on the brain, and it builds a confidence, and there's no other way to do that except do it. And the way our tanks and systems are laid out, it's very easy to do.
And you started all this when you were, what, about 19?
Yeah, 18, 19. I was always interested in life around us, whether it's snakes or frogs or sea life or whatever. And then I started selling some specimens in 1961. Didn't get very far with that. But then I went on to Florida State briefly, right getting out of high school, and decided this wasn't for me. They decided I wasn't for FSU. We had a mutual exit fest, if you want to call that. And I came down to the coast. I had been living in the coast and started building a market for specimens. And, 50-some years later, here I am.
Well, at the time you started, you were probably one of the very few in the country, weren't you?
Yes, there was the Woods Hole, the Marine Biological Laboratory, and a little bit at Duke University, and there was a group out in California called Pacific Biomarine, but we were sort of represented the whole Southeast, and that was the job was to try to provide them with different animals from this area. And it wasn't easy then because there was no real easy accessible knowledge. I mean, now I just look at what a marvel it is with the internet. If you see a sea hare or something, you go in and just punch it up or get pictures of those things, click on the pictures, and you know all about it. And you can get papers and all that sort of thing. That wasn't there in those days. It was very hard to do it. So I had to travel and go to museums and different universities throughout the country. Now, I got to tell people I poached an education at Harvard because I was at the Museum of Comparative Zoology, I don't know, for months and months at a time. So, it was a chance to really learn that particular phase of invertebrate zoology. But I also spent time at Yale and at the Smithsonian and so on, and eventually got my way onto an expedition to Madagascar, where I was working with French and Dutch scientists as well as Americans, and I gained something more of an in-depth background of what all these various sea creatures are. Listening to your fishing report, I was thinking, yeah, we deal with these things too, the Spanish mackerel or the kigs and the cobia and all of that sort of thing, and the triple tails, but what Gulf Specimen is about is what all those things are eating. We display the diets of those fish and the relationships, and it's all very important that people understand it. That's kind of really makes me kind of sad. Like we had a really good fishing festival here a week or so ago called Rock the Dock, and there was like 800 people and lots of fish caught. But it would have been a golden opportunity if we could have gotten organized with the FWC or whatever to do gut contents of these fish. And as they're being weighed in and, people get their prize, somebody draws the fish and pickles the stomach contents. And then you get a great spectrum of whether they're eating, little Portunus swimming crabs or rock shrimp if they're offshore, or, various mud crabs or pea crabs or whatever, depending on the size of the fish and the type, or whether a flounder will love to ambush sheep's head killifish. But it would be nice to really do the assessment and look at what's in the stomachs from year to year and fishing festival to fishing festival, and that gives you a pulse of what's going on out in the main ecosystem.
Well, and of course, what you're saying is exactly true, that if we don't maintain the population of the food for the fish, we don't have any fish.
Right, exactly.
And scallops in our area are a very good example of that, because my mother lived in Mexico Beach in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And when I visited her, St. Joe Bay, you didn't have to hardly walk out anywhere, and you could come home with huge bags of scallops.
That's right.
And now when they do these test tracks, this past year was one of the poorer years, where in the past they've had some of the booming years. We never know what's going to be coming up this year. But when I first came to Panama City, we got lots of scallops in St. Andrews Bay. Now it's completely dried up. So scallop is one of the measures that we have.
It is. It's an indicator species, and it's one that people can focus on. But let's look at some that have disappeared, like the coquina clams along the beach. You walk along the outer beaches of whether it's Cape San Blas or St. George Island or Alligator Point, and it used to be in many, many sections of it that looks like the whole beach would get up and move with these little jeweled clams, and just by the millions, the billions digging into the surf with each wave, you know, and then they'd get dislodged and dig right back down. Well, frankly, since the oil spill, they have disappeared. We hardly see any of them. I mean, we out and actually managed to get up and scrape up an order for a dozen the other day, and I had two people out on the out on the beach digging and sifting sand, and damn lucky to get what we could get. So I think there are, and then you modify that impact to various polychaete worms, and I don't know where, you know, there's just so many different things that you just don't see anymore, and they become scarce.
Well, over our the other things is sand fleas, and I'm sure you're...
Yeah, the mole crabs, the sand fleas are the same thing. You know, you might see some now and then. There'll be a little flurry of a population, and you say, oh, good, well, they're back. They're not back.
The whole beach used to be alive with
Right,
them.
exactly.
Every tidal wash you'd
Right,
see them.
yeah, and they'd all get up and, you know, bury anything into the sand, and kids were raised with those. They were fun to catch. And if those things are gone, we have a serious problem. And what really upsets me is that we have a state government. I pay large amounts of license fees and everything else like that just to exist and keep this facility, because, you know, the FWC has considered us to be commercial fishermen because we sell specimens. But nevertheless, I don't see any biologists out there looking at the invertebrate fauna and or even at the algae populations or anything. I don't see the universities doing it. I don't see anybody looking at the fundamental basis of the food chains and asking the questions, what's happening? If you're not seeing squid, and I'm not seeing squid, and yet we think back to the years which we have seen squid, and yes, there's a good squid year now and then. I mean, there's booms and busts in any cycle. It has to do with temperature. It has to do with salinity. Who knows? It has to do with sunspots and the shifting magnetic fields. I don't know, but there's a million variables, but still, you've been at this thing a long time, and I've been at this thing a long time, and I'm telling you, I see detriments out there, and I see lack of things. I can walk on the beach, and I don't see sponges to pick up like I used to, and I don't see a lot of the marine algae, or we'll see an explosion of sea pork that I've never seen before in my life, where I'm wading into this stuff up to my knees. That was right after the oil spill. And yes, we have booms and busts of, say, cannonball jellyfish, but what we had 2 years ago was just unprecedented of anything that I have ever seen.
Yeah.
So why?
Well, it sure is a mystery. And when I made reference to you as being the real Dr. Marion Ford, you are a good friend of Randy Wayne White's, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I've often wished I could get a stand-in for me, because a lot of people say, "You're Jack Rudlow," you know. It's just, or they envision me with this big heroic character of Dr. Ford. So I mean, that's why I got fired from Sports Illustrated. I did an article of how an alligator ate my dog, and I jumped on the alligator, and we had a wrestling match, and they didn't believe it because they were looking for some Adonis, you know, 6'4", great muscular, heroic person that would be crazy enough to jump on an alligator. But you know, so that's the way it goes. But yeah, Randy's a good friend, and I enjoy reading his stuff too.
And a fantastic writer.
He is a fantastic writer.
And we're going to take a break right here because we've got a lot of stuff to go and see and have you introduce us to your friends inside. Oh, by the way, one quick question. When you ship specimens, do you ship mostly alive or do you ship dead? What do you do?
It's all alive now.
That's what
no,
I thought.
I started it, but thanks to things like FedEx, we're able to get stuff out of the sea into our tanks, and sometimes directly out of the sea into a box, and then arrive at the classroom or the laboratory the next day.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. Well, stay with us because we've got a lot of exciting stuff to see right here with Jack Rudlow.
Hi, this is Larry Lee from Coin and Bullion Reserves. Do you need to raise some quick cash? People from all over the southeastern United States have been doing that for over 39 years here at Coin and Bullion Reserves, and here's how it's done. You go to your jewelry box, you get that old unused gold chain, you bring it to Coin and Bullion Reserves at the corner of East Avenue and 15th Street in Panama City, where you will get more for your gold than any place in the United States, and you can take that to the bank.
Meet Henson Hindenburg, king of the road at Baytown Tire, 2609 West 15th Street, just before the curve. For 20 years, he's taken care of your cars, trucks, and commercial vehicles. Baytown Tire carries tires including Michelin, Yokohama, BF Goodrich, and Uniroyal. A new set gets free rotation every 6 months. Alignment is done on the latest digital equipment, and his diagnostic can read all your computer info for proper repairs. All his service folks are ASE certified. Give him a call today at 873-8900.
The Captain Henderson makes fishing a breeze. There's a galley on board, and your comfortable trip is all-inclusive. Rod, reel, tackle, bait, and your fishing license. The traditional all-day trip from 7 to 5 p.m. Come aboard the Captain Henderson for a relaxing day of bottom fishing. There's plenty of room, so bring the whole family. It's a whopping big adventure, and that's no fishtail. The Captain Henderson is located at Captain Henderson's Marina, where the fish are always biting and the kids are always smiling. Please call for cruise schedules.
When was the last time you took a few minutes out of your busy schedule to enjoy the simple things? The wide open spaces, the uncharted territory, the moments that seem to stick with you for a lifetime. Well, what are you waiting for? Half hitch. Get out there.
Need a storage shed, pole barn, or garage? Who do you call? Two-time site-built buildings. They come completely prefabbed with aluminum siding and 3/4-inch floors. Constructed on your property by James McConnell and his crew. With no middleman, his prices is lower, and with easy payment terms. Here's my 12-foot by 20-foot shed that went through a 3-foot gate and anchored like a mobile home. He's been building here for 15 years. See the samples at 3822 Highway 98 in Springfield, and call today at 850-257-5729. When you want your lawn to go from this to this, you need to call Leroy Dennis and his helper Bill Grimes. They can do it in one day. Not only that, but Leroy offers discounts to seniors and active and former military. He and his partner can handle any commercial jobs. Don't wait to give them a call at 358-6696. Guess what? If you aren't satisfied, I'll pay for it myself. Don't delay. Call the experts now and look great tomorrow. Well, we're here with Jack Rudlow, and he's got a very special event coming up down here at Gulf Specimen Laboratory. And Jack, what's happening?
We're going to have our 4th annual Sharks and Chablis fundraiser on May 19th from 2 to 7 p.m. And it's going to have all kinds of entertainment and Irish dancing and calypso type of thing, and it's being seafood catered, and there's going to be all kinds of people and special exhibits. And this particular one is special to us because it's this new wing in here that we're renovating is dedicated to my wife who passed away last year, Ann Rudlow, who was a very well-known and much-loved marine biologist and spiritual type leader, and she had a big following and a lot of friends, and she was on public radio a lot, and just all sorts of things, and a newspaper commentator. So this year we're kind of dedicating this new renovations that we have just put in to her, and we've redone the tanks, and we're going to be putting in more landscaping. So by the time the next couple of weeks roll around, this thing should be even better.
Well, we're looking around so far. It's just so totally fascinating, and I can imagine if you get kids in here, it's just got to be bug-eyed for them.
It's a life changer for kids. We have actually built a number of careers here with just a few visits of people that connect and learn what's here, and they don't just see it or read it in a book or look at it on a tube. They actually get to touch it and feel it and connect with it.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because that's sort of what happened with my daughter, who, as I told you, has a master's in marine biology. Mm-hmm. She's a research biologist for California Fish and Game.
Yeah.
And Do you remember who Stanton Waterman is? You've heard the
Yes,
name.
yes.
He was the first guy to go in a cage underwater with great
White sharks. Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
And I did too. Blue water,
Yeah,
white death.
right. Yes.
And when
he came here. He was at the lab here.
And when I was I lived in New Hampshire 30 years. He came to our town, and for a special event. And it turns out that when it was over, there were no restaurants open. So he came to our house for dinner. And when he did, my daughter had a chance to meet him, and that was a big turning point that sent her on her way. So that's what kind of effect people like you have.
Yeah, right. I mean, for example, there's actually some graphics out there. We have copies of paintings from a very famous Florida artist named Christopher Still. His stuff is in museums and in the House of Representatives. But as he writes in this particular graphic that we have here, he came here when he was 11 years old, and I showed him some sea squirts and got to squirt him, and he said apparently that started his whole career, and now he's quite famous and very much in demand.
That's what makes people like you so important to our world of education and to our young people. And so let's go ahead and take a tour and see what's going on here. It's time to go feed those fish, isn't it?
Yes, it is, right? We'll do that.
Well, now we're over here in a specimen tank. I see here's what kind of sharks are those?
These are nurse sharks, and
They're hungry little buggers.
oh, they're always hungry, and yeah. And the kids really like this.
So do adults.
Yes.
And I see some beautiful redfish and sheephead.
Yep. We've got some reds. We've had them much bigger. We've actually had them stay here and die of old age, and they've gotten to be really big fish. But you can see when you throw something in, they're going to hit it real fast. And in in another tank, you'll see some black sea bass that really put on a pretty ferocious.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean those things. When you're out fishing, they'll swallow the sinker as well as the hooks. And
well, people don't realize a lot of times that's why they get cut off, because while you've got a fish on the end of your line on the hook, another fish comes up to grab it and sees the sinker and eats the sinker and cuts your line.
That's right, and that happens a lot. And I mean, let's face it, if black sea bass and pinfish were as big as big sharks, it would not be a safe place to be in the ocean. Hey, this is one of our sand tanks, and this has crabs in it. I think it has spider crabs and definitely has hermit crabs in it. And you don't see much going on. It looks kind of static, and there's a little bit of movement. But watch what happens when I throw some fish in here and let the juices get out. And then it takes a minute, but you'll start to see, I hope, things come to life. It doesn't, we start getting creatures pulling out. All right, here comes the hermit crab over to that, but we should start seeing burrowing crabs come out of the sand. Yeah, like there's a calico crab that's just popping out. And you see some of the others that will start to appear. You see suddenly more crabs than you saw before. That's really interesting when we do blue crabs. For example, there's a spider crab. Now, for all I know, they've already eaten, and they're not. Yeah, here we go. See that? How that popped to life? And then as the food gets out and the taste gets out here.
All right, and listen, by the way, folks, we've been here at the
Gulf Specimen Marine Laboratory
in Panacea with Jack Rudlow, and that's going to be it for today's edition. But thanks for watching, and if you missed anything today, we'll have the rest on next week.